Do you want to review Blade and Sorcery?
Yeah.
Yeah!
I do.
So Blade and Sorcery went 1.0 maybe a week and a half ago now.
I did, yes.
You reloaded the game. You played it when it first came out. It had that charming jank. You played a lot of Star Wars mod.
Yep.
But now that it's 1.0, you've done something you've never done before. You've played it unmodded.
Yes, that's correct. I played the vanilla game.
What's your review? Tell me about it.
It is absolutely a complete standalone game at this point. There's just so much going on that I did not expect. So their Crystal Hunt game mode, which is their main single-player game, it's just a way of unlocking all the different powers that you can use.
Yep.
And you
So it's like generated dungeons?
That's right, yeah. They're procedurally generated dungeons that once you run through, you get like essentially currency that you can then spend on a crystal at the very end level, and then that gives you a power that you can select.
Yeah, the crystals, if you've played Rumble, it's kind of like that. There's crystals that give you certain powers that you can equip, and in this one you use in-game currency to get them, and you get the currency by completing the dungeons.
Yep.
And you can complete those dungeons however you want. You can fight every guy, or you started speedrunning dungeons.
I did. What I noticed is when you were playing, when I'm playing the dungeons, they've got all these different, like little... they've got all these parkour items that you can jump from the alley to complete like a level without killing anyone or hitting anyone.
There's a footpath, but then there might be a chasm that, if you have the right gem, you can just exploit.
Totally.
And it's not on accident.
No. And I think they've built them in a way where you could probably do this without using any magic powers at all.
Yeah.
And the way that this game iterates upon the powers, it's not like they kind of instruct you on how they work. You discover it. And so I maxed out like my gravity gem, which allowed me to jump further and like start to fly.
They were kind of like quasi Iron Man pumps.
Totally,
You push down and it launches you in the air.
I used to play a mod that let me fly around like Iron Man, and this feels a little bit more like you're flying around like a Wanda Maximoff or whatever. Like you're kind of floating and gliding around and stopping your fall.
Sometimes I saw you flying through the air like you just did a big jump, and then other times it really looked like you were gliding more.
Yeah.
It looked cool.
What I did discover though after using that a bunch is like I unlocked this ability to shoot fire out of like a staff, like a magic staff. And then I noticed as I was like using it that it was actually propelling me in different ways. Oh. And I noticed that if I used one gravity gem hand and like jumped and then propelled myself with my flamethrower, I could like float essentially.
It was a jetpack.
Totally. And it was like that was a whole gameplay and movement mechanic that I then started to rely on that felt like I came up with it by myself.
Yeah, cool.
And I'm sure that was invented by someone like on the development team.
Yeah.
But the way that it happened felt very emergent, as if I had come up with that as my own kind of movement mechanic.
Like Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. There's so many things they did on purpose that really feel like you're discovering them.
Totally. And I think that's probably the biggest selling point behind this release is that every time something new happens, it feels like a discovery. It doesn't feel like something that's like, I don't know, pathed for me.
Yeah.
Like, it's not holding my hand. It's not coming up with a bunch of pop-up menus that say, hey, did you know that you could use it in this way? And so, yeah, fantastic experience.
Well, and how different were the dungeons aesthetically? Did they look different, or were they all just shaped different?
It feels like there's like 40 extra procedural dungeon set pieces now that like swap in and out, and some of them are at different levels of rarity. Okay. So I've now been playing the game since this update. I'm going to say upwards of 10, 15 hours.
Yep.
And I don't think I've seen all of the bits, all of the chunks.
Right.
And some of them you just come into and it's like this amazing, like huge cavern that almost looks like a sandbox in itself. Some of the environments look like they're from like Jedi Fallen Order or something.
Okay.
Like
Is that a good thing?
It's a great thing. Well,
I mean, Jedi Fallen Order's got some cool like chasm-y, like big architectural things.
Totally. And I mainly say that in the way that this does not look like an early access game or something that's like a small indie project. Yeah. This looks like a AAA experience to me.
Yeah, I think last week you appreciated that it was going 1.0, but it really sounds like this week you're like, oh no, they've gone 1.0.
Yes. Yeah, totally. I feel like I somewhat doubted how much extra stuff they were going to put into this, only because I'd relied so much on mods in the past. But it's exceeded all of my expectations in that regard. I feel like there's still maybe just a couple of kinks to work out just on an optimization level. I found that if I put the headset down and like just to go get a drink or a pee or a poo or anything like that, the when I come back to the headset, it's like starting to lag unless I restart the game.
Yeah,
And
right.
so-
I do have one question. In the reviews and everything, that I see a boss battle with a big rocky guy.
Oh, yeah.
Where you have to climb onto him to smash the things,
Yes.
but he's moving around and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was wondering how, like, trippy that is to be on something that's moving around. What was that like?
It's a little disorienting, and I've got pretty strong VR legs. Like I haven't felt any nausea playing it, but this is Boneworks level of like trusting that you're okay with VR.
Yeah.
So yeah, like your horizon will move, like it will rotate as you're like on this guy's arm and stuff like that. Yeah. So like, if you don't have strong VR legs, it might be a damaging experience.
Is there any way to defeat that rock monster with that arrow, like not jumping on it?
There are totally ways, and so like I guess I always jump on him and like grab on and like start hitting away. But like you could totally use like projectiles to smash the crystals and stuff.
I've done the boss battles for Asgard's Wrath 2,
Yep.
and it feels like a video game boss battle. It's like satisfying and it's big and it's cool.
Yep.
What did it feel like?
It's great because the scale plays a huge aspect for this boss, because he's like standing over the top of you. You're like in 3D, he looks huge. And like I got to do that thing that I've seen in movies a bunch, where you run through the legs of the guy and then come around the other side and then like start hacking away.
Legolas, these legs.
Yes, that's right. And honestly, you can kind of do all like the wacky slidey stuff that Legolas does as well.
Yeah,
like I was trying to balance on top of him as he's like trying to hit me and all this kind of stuff. The only issue is that he always spawns in the same location. I kind of wish it was a little bit more dynamic.
A little bit more of a surprise.
Yeah, but what I think that this is really kind of opening up is like whenever people mod this version of the game, it's going to have so many more features than the previous versions of the mods. Like I can't wait for this thing to be like a AT ST
Rancor
or something like that. Yeah, totally, a Rancor.
That'd be cool.
Totally. So yeah, they haven't released the SDK yet for the modding for it. So like that'll give everyone the tools to be able to manipulate these new features.
Do old mods work? Do you know? Did you try it all?
No, they don't work. So like
It's all dead. So don't update if you want to mod.
That's correct. Like, yeah, the Outer Rim mod, the old Star Wars one, that won't work yet, and that requires the guy that makes that to then like figure out how to remodel that stuff in, and that takes many hours of work. But what they have done now is they've integrated a mod menu into the game itself.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so you can go to Nexus like you always used to and download your mods.
It's very clear that they plan on supporting it.
Yes, you're right. And now you can actually see what mods are loaded up, and if there are any that don't fit with that version, it's in the main menu as you go to install mods. But if you want to check out what your mods are in the game itself, you can actually check the menu and you can see this mod is for a previous version and hasn't been loaded. This one's for a previous mod and hasn't been loaded and stuff. And so you can go through and sort all that out. While in the past, if that was an issue, the game just wouldn't start. So like you were second guessing whether or not it was you, if it was your headset, if it was your computer, or if it was the mods. But now that's all taken care of and managed by the game itself.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. How do you rate it?
I spent more hours in the game than reality. So
so the game won.
the game won this week. Yeah.